He elucidates on the value of suffering by drawing an analogy between humans and the trees. In the late 1980s, scientists involved with the Biosphere 2 project created an enclosed ecological system to explore the potential viability of supporting life on another planet. And as McGilchrist writes, scientists involved in the Biosphere 2 project were puzzled by the fact that trees within the project repeatedly failed to achieve maturity before they fell over. Later, they realized that trees needed wind in order to grow strong. Exposure to winds causes the growth of stress wood, which is the core of the tree's strength and integrity. Winds also cause the root system to strengthen. As with a tree, if a man or woman is placed in a sheltered environment and protected from the stressors of life, he or she will grow up vulnerable and frail. Hardship, adversity, and the suffering that accompanies such experiences are necessary for a healthy development. Nietzsche recognized this fact about trees and people long before the Biosphere 2 project, and as he wrote, "Examine the lives of the best and most fruitful people, and ask yourself whether a tree that is supposed to grow to a proud height can dispense with bad weather and storms, whether misfortune and eternal resistance do not belong among the favorable conditions without which any great growth, even of virtue, is scarcely possible." But the value of suffering goes beyond the fact that it is an inescapable byproduct of the hardships that lead to personal growth. Rather, there are values to suffering that are intrinsic to the experience. Firstly, suffering is a great teacher, or as Nietzsche put it, great suffering is the ultimate liberator of the mind. Suffering can make evident errors in our ways and point to the necessity for change. Suffering is also essential for empathy. Unless we suffer, how can we know what others are going through in times of hardship? It is also well established that certain forms of suffering, most notably depression, increase our capacity to realistically evaluate life, or as McGilchrist explains, depression has repeatedly been shown to be associated with greater realism, provided the depression is not too severe. The evidence is that this is not because insight makes you depressed, but because, up to a point, being depressed gives you insight. In understanding one's role in bringing about a certain outcome, depressives are more in touch with reality even than normal subjects. Suffering, however, does more than teach. It also increases our capacity to enjoy life. For suffering exists at one end of a dipole, or set of opposites, and on the other end lie happiness and joy. As with all pairs of opposites, for one to exist, so must the other. For an individual to know joy, he or she must also know the pain of suffering, and the greater our capacity for one of these types of experiences, the greater our capacity for the other.